Hi, this is Mike Bloom, Modern Languages Communications Director, and today I'm talking to Bruce Campbell, Professor of German Studies at the College of William and Mary. Bruce is the co-editor of the book Detectives, Dystopias, and Pop Lit, Studies in Modern German Genre
Okay.
Fiction.
Well, I guess I would like to know a little bit about the book and how you got the idea. What was sort of the stimulus for the book?
Great. I teach a class in German detective fiction. I guess I should wind back even further. I'm an historian by training, but when I got the job here in modern languages, I had to cast around for more literary sorts of subjects that I could teach. Then I got the idea, I read detective fiction. I know something about it. Why not do something on that? And I developed a course on it. It's been very successful, a senior level course. And of course, detective fiction allows you to say an awful lot about a society for a number of different reasons. And there was some work published in German, not very much. The Germans tend to denigrate minor fictions, genre fictions. And there are almost no publications in English. And I thought, this is an area where more and more scholars are working. Why not put together an edited volume? And in the course of that, I got a couple colleagues involved, and they were interested, some of them were interested in other kinds of fiction. So one of my co-editors, Vibeke Petersen, writes on science fiction. So we decided that instead of just limiting the volume to detective fiction, it would be all sorts of minor fictions, what we call genre fiction, in German. So that's how it got started. It was my idea, my conception, but these things evolve, and I was very happy to have two co-editors by the end of the day, because you can't know everything.
So, did you learn anything surprising in preparation of the book that you maybe didn't know before? Something that was interesting to you that sort of developed?
Yeah, I learned that some presses actually put a lot of effort into editing. That was very surprising. Our press, Camden House, really worked extensively with us and were on top of every single revision. That meant that the book took much longer to get out than it normally would. But on the other hand, it was great to have a real copy editor to go over everything. It was terrific. And that's more and more rare these days. I know that wasn't exactly what you were trying to get at with the question.
Well, that's a great answer. If you want to take up another.
Well, certainly, I learned a lot from each of our contributors. Yeah, everybody had something to say that was new to me. I knew nothing about pop fiction. I knew very little about German science fiction. I read a little bit, but one of the premises of my article and several of the other articles in the book on detective fiction is that given the German past, writing detective fiction, asking a German reader to identify with a cop is not a straightforward thing, because cops were Nazis. And I learned that in other but similar ways, a lot of science fiction was also very heavily weighed down by that German past. When you're fighting aliens, aliens often become a kind of a proxy for real enemies in the real world. And in a lot of German science fiction written before 1945, well, who were the aliens? The Jews. So a very similar kind of a thing at the end of the day. So I learned a lot of things like that.
So now you were editor, but also contributor.
Yes.
To this volume.
Yes.
Would you like to compare the different roles that you had, or did you enjoy editing more than writing, or?
Well, both are a lot of work. Writing is maybe more work. when you're a writer, you have to take orders from your editors and accept all, or at least hopefully accept their suggestions. And I couldn't escape from that. I actually had to submit my article to the other two editors to see if they would accept it. Now, chances are I had a good chance from the beginning, but they were ferocious in their editing of what I had to say, which was really very good. So at the end of the day, I guess it's better to be the one to be saying those things than to be the one who has to accept them.
So if you had to explain to a layperson what they could get out of reading your text, what would be the sort of takeaway?
I guess the takeaway is this. We all agree that literature matters. And we're used to thinking of that in terms of high literature, Shakespeare. Well, it turns out there are other kinds of literature that we often ignore, disrespect, denigrate, that also can tell us an awful lot about society, maybe in some ways more than the high literature. And so that's the takeaway. If you want to learn a lot about German society, read detective fiction, read romance fiction, read science fiction. In many ways, the things that preoccupy a society, the mores and ideas that govern that society often come through much more clearly in the minor fictions. And buy the book.
I think we'll end it there. That was totally brilliant. Great.
I want to thank Bruce Campbell for talking to us today about his book, Detectives, Dystopias, and Pop Lit, and thank you for listening. And as Bruce says, buy the book. Until next time, this is Mike Bloom for Global Voices Journal.